Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jeremy Medeiros and JP Ruja out here finally on Nonsuch Island again for the beginning of the 2024 to 2025 Cahow nesting season. It's been a long while. It's been a long, hot summer. 2 hurricanes passed, and we're ready to start this new season now. First indications are that a lot of birds, an unusual number, have already returned earlier than normal. So let's see what we can find. I hear Cahow. I hear a pair. So sounds like it's in the R821. Yeah. So well, that's pretty well confirmed that. So that's always great. And usually the first pairs of Cahows to return are ones like 821 they actually failed last season because they don't have to take care of a chick for 90 to 100 days and such. They leave like in April, beginning of April rather than mid-June. And so those birds have much more time to get themselves back in good shape and such. They don't have the stresses of raising a child and everything, which any of us parents know about. So as a result, they often come back they're the first ones to come back the following season. And I suspect that's what we're going to largely find. So I'll start right over here. I'm pretty sure there's nothing back there. There's no sign of footprints or anything like that. So, but always worth a check. Yeah, nobody back home yet. There is some rocks and such that land crabs have dug up, and I always remove those from nest chambers because all you need is one small sharp-edged rock, and that can puncture an egg and wreck the breeding chances for that pair of Cahows for the whole season, and they have to wait until the following year because they just only lay the 1 egg a year, and that's it. Here's our first Nonsuch Cahow, and it's interesting because this bird produced a chick last season, and look at his bill, it's full of soil, so he's been digging away in there. That's most likely the male. He's in perfect shape because he's probably just returned in the last night or two. Really, he's in great condition. He's fairly heavy, I can feel that. Welcome back. Yeah, I always think we know, having put many GPS and GLS tags on these birds really for over a decade now, and the amazing thing is when you look at where they've traveled, and just during the non-breeding season from say early June until now, until mid-October, sometimes they'll travel something like 35 or 40,000 miles in that short period. It's just mind-boggling the distances that these small winged runners, very fast-moving seabirds can actually travel. Yeah, it's in pretty good shape. Let's see, 345 grams. That's actually quite light for a returning male, so it might be he's been in for a few nights already waiting for the female. You just never know. Okay, so this is number R825 nest. So E0623. E0623. Okay. I believe this is a Nonsuch born bird. There we go. Okay, and we'll put it back in, let it back in the entrance. Here we go. Yeah, it's a beautiful bird. Yeah, it's in immaculate shape. You can see the white phyllo plumes on the head, little hair-like feathers, which indicates it's most likely the male. Both sexes have them, but the males tend to have more. And they're not flight feathers. They're connected to extra nerve endings, and they think it's something to do with a detecting the speed and direction of wind, but also with when they're allopreening, when you get both of the birds, the adult birds, preening each other, they concentrate around the head a lot. And because it's quite pleasurable, it's like having a scalp massage, I guess. That's what it feels like for the bird. And because it feels pleasurable, having your mate, preen those, those sensitive feathers on top of your head is one of the things that helps the pair to, to keep that bond going for perhaps as long as 30 or more years that the pairs generally stay together for. It's pretty neat. Generally a monogamous seabird, they stay together for life with the same partners. All right, so we'll just go up the hill a bit. Yeah, this the fourth nest I've checked, second one with Cahows in it, and in fact this is the first nest with a pair together, and that's about what I would have thought, because this is a nest that they've produced their first egg last year, so it's a new pair, and it was slightly undersized, and it was fertile for a bit but failed ultimately, probably because it was very undersized. So hopefully this year they'll produce their first fertile egg that actually hatches, and they produce their first chick. So take them out, see, just confirm it's the same birds in there. Yeah, this is a different sort of burrow than the concrete ones that we often use. Yeah, that looks like the male. Yeah, he's banded on the left leg, so he is a bird that was either translocated here or hatched as a chick on Nonsuch. And here's the other one. I don't know, this might be the male here. It's beefier bird. You can tell because the bills look a little bit more massive. He's also obviously looking for somebody or something to bite. So, okay, so I'm just going to take a look at the nest, and there's the usual rocks and stones, so I'm just going to take them out to help the birds. It's amazing. It's just little things like this that can make all the difference between the pair being successful or the pair losing their egg because it's been punctured by one of these sharp little rocks. It's also a reason why it's very important for them to have a nice thick grass nest. So I'm going to help them out in that. Because they're a new pair, they don't really know much about building nests yet. It takes them a few years to get the hang of it. So Grandpa Jeremy is going to teach them nest building 101. It's amazing. You think, well, this is a wild bird. Why should you have to do that? Well, because they're still rare enough that every single chick counts at this point. There's only 165 pairs on the planet. That may sound like a lot, and it's certainly better than the 17 pairs we started with in the 1960s. But 165 pairs for planet Earth is an incredibly small number. And so they're still at the point where literally we manage every single nest site that we can, actually get access to like this. It's difficult with some of the ones. Okay, that gives them a nice start. So I'm going to place that there because I'll put them both in through the nest entrance. That's how I'll replace them. So I'll start with the first bird. The other one's nice and quiet. So as long as it's quiet, I'm going to weigh it first. Probably just from weighing we'll be able to tell who's the male, who's the female. But I can confirm that, yeah, this is most likely the male. It's quite heavy, or it is quite heavy. It's 372, so that's 352 grams. Usually the male is about 15 to 20% heavier, but not always. There are a few pairs where there are unusually large female birds. It's okay, please don't bite me.
Oh, pretty bird.
Yeah, it's
hey,
beautiful.
Pretty bird. How you doing? Let's get a still real quick. Whoops, not me. The bird. There we go.
It's okay.
1 second.
Please don't bite me yet. Yep. Yeah, read that right. Okay, sweetie. Yep, so we have another one. Another returnee, and that's another left-banded, another beautiful bird. Nice and clean, so obviously just returned in the last day or two. There's no dirt on the undersides or anything yet. So that's a gorgeous bird. Good. Yeah. It has some rocks in there I'll have to clean, so I'll weigh it first. Okay, so this looks like the male, typical male. Yeah, this all of the ones in this hill are fairly new pairs that have just started nesting anywhere from 1 to 3 years ago, and this has already produced. This pair has produced 2 eggs. They had 1 chick successfully fledge in 2023, and then this year they failed. So we will see how they do this year. Seems like a very healthy pair. Yeah, oh yeah, that's a nice. That's definitely the male, nearly 400 grams, very close to it. Let's see, 390, 393, so that'll be 373 grams. It's a beautiful big bird. It's one of the bigger male Cahows that we've got. Quite a, you know, imposing looking bird. You know, you can see the brown irises and such. You know, it's just a beautiful bird, very calm. I find those are often, that's a sign of a good breeding bird too, is when they're calm and they just get on with it, you know. So we'll move on to the next nest, which is R822 right down here. Now, this was successful. It produced a chick this year earlier, so I don't know if we'll see a bird in it, but we're doing pretty good so far. We've seen return birds in 3 of the nests. Nope, not yet. Nobody back yet. Okay, so we know there's somebody back in this one because we heard them calling when we first arrived. So I'll take a look at the entrance. Not really much evidence there, but there's somebody back in here. So. And there they go. Very noisy pair. Normally, if they're calling like that, that means there's a pair together, but the male bird from this is a noisy bird anyway, and quite often he calls even if he's by himself. So we will see. Yeah, it is. It's just the one bird. Now, come on. Ah, it's also quite aggressive and has already given me a good bite. Here we go. Yep. Again, it's another very recently returned bird. There's no soil on his nails or bill or anything, or his underside is in perfect condition. It's just, yeah, the birds look in really good shape this year. Yeah, there's no tattered plumage or frayed, wing tips or anything like that, or tail tips. They look in really good condition. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get a look at your weight and all of that. It's always good to see because, you wonder, well, where have these guys been? This bird could well, and it is one of the birds we fitted a tag onto, so I could actually bring that up on my computer and see. But if I remember, it's one of the birds that wintered to the northwest, summered to the northwest of the Azores. But also we tracked it going up almost as far north as the latitude of Iceland and southern Greenland, to 60 degrees north. So, they travel just amazing distances. 400, so that's minus the weight of the bag, that's 380 grams. E0618, E0618. This is a new male. Yeah, that's right. The original male that nested in this nest for about 12 or 13 years, I believe, was displaced by this male. Basically, this one kicked out the original occupant of it. And this bird is a bird, another one, that was translocated in 2013 or 14 at the B site and has come back to Nonsuch, to the A site, and decided that it wanted this nest and fought for it. And for about a year, ownership was going backwards and forwards. One time I would find the original male in here, then I would find this male, then I'd find the original male, then I'd find a whole pile of feathers, which indicated they had been fighting in the nest. And this one seems to have won, which means the original male now is probably going to turn up somewhere else looking for a new nest site, which is one of the reasons why it's very important to keep building a few new nests every single year so that it can continue to go. But I can see why this one won out. It's a big, heavy bird. Sometimes the new male will take possession of the female along with the nest. Sometimes she is disturbed by, the loss of her original mate, and she'll also abandon the nest and look for a new mate as well. It usually means the breakup of that original pair. They won't get together in a new nest and we all live happily ever after. That's generally not how it works in the real world, in nature. So it's unfortunate, but it's basically introducing some new genes into the population, and it's obviously a very strong, robust bird. And this pair was never, the original pair that lived in this nest was never a particularly successful pair. Their breeding success rate was probably only about, I think in 12 or 13 years, they might have produced 4 chicks. So it's like about a 30 to 40% breeding success rate. So not the best. So, that's how it is in nature. We all want a happy ending for our favorite couples and stuff, but it doesn't always work out that way in the real world. That's why we need to study it and monitor who's nesting with who and what nests. It really gives you a good handle on what is happening with the population here. All right, so now this is normally a very early returning pair, and they were last year. They were one of the first to come back, but they also produced a chick, which was the first chick to fledge successfully from Nonsuch on. So that might, that might retard their return a little bit. Might mean, and I don't see any sign that they're back yet. So I would guess they would come back a little bit later. We'll see if I'm right or not. I haven't looked in any of these nests, so I'm just trying to decipher before I look in what's happening from the entrance. All right. Yep, and nobody's back yet. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happened. But no, I was really happy. It's funny. The male, this is an interesting bird, and this is what happens when you study the individual pairs for so long. You can figure this out. Is the male bird in here was actually a rehabilitated chick. It wasn't part of the original translocation. It was a bird that was abandoned prematurely by the parents from Horn Rock, the C14 nest, and it was starving. It was a bird which normally we'd have written off. It's not going to survive. But as I do with most of the chicks that are abandoned prematurely, I took it into care, put it in a nest here. It wasn't this nest, I believe it was one of the other nests that was empty at the time, and fed it on fresh anchovies and squid. And it fledged successfully after about 3 weeks and flew out to sea, but it was quite a small bird. It was very small. It was very light. It was at the lowest end of what I would expect to survive the fledging process and be able to survive out at sea. Well, imagine my surprise 3 or 4 years later when it returned, settled on this nest, which I had just built like a month or so before. It was a brand new nest then. settled in here. It attracted a mate, which was actually a female, which I had translocated here back in 2008, I believe. And they nested in here for about 10 years together, and they produced a few chicks. Again, not a very successful pair, but I guess in that 10 years they produced four chicks, maybe five, so almost 50%. And then 3 years ago, the original female disappeared. Never saw her again, so most likely she died out at sea, just natural causes, maybe a predator like a skua, which is basically like a giant predatory gull, or phalarope or something like that, or just perhaps got caught up in an exceptionally powerful storm. And the male didn't give up on the burrow, tried to attract a new mate, attracted one female, which he was with for 1 year. They didn't produce an egg, and that female didn't return. In fact, it paired up with another male, the other side of the colony. And then 2 years ago, another female he managed to attract. They seemed to hit it off. They went through the motions, didn't produce an egg the first year, but this year they produced their first egg, and the chick hatched. It was an exceptionally good chick. Their genes really seemed to be compatible. It was very big, and it was the first chick to fledge. It was the first egg to hatch and the first chick to fledge. So hopefully that means that our rehabilitated, sort of runt of a male bird, which, survived that, had to be rescued from another nest, has found his true love, and hopefully there'll be a good pair that's producing lots of chicks. So it's just amazing, particularly in the last 5 or 6 years, how rapidly the growth has been of these two new colonies here. There's over 30 pairs just at the A site and another 10 or 12 over at the B site. So Nonsuch, has essentially 40 plus pairs already. It's just remarkable and very satisfying. Now this one, R817, is a pretty successful pair, but they did fail last year. So I would not be surprised if they're back already or somebody's back. Yep, and sure enough, right on schedule. Okay, here we go. Beautiful bird. It's also a very fast bird. He almost got out of my hand. Yeah, you see, this is most likely the male too. It's the E0162. Yeah, that's the male. The male is E0162. The female is E0184. So this is the male. And it's interesting, this bird, most of the ones I've been seeing, their plumage is very new. It's newly molted. It's that lovely satiny gray color. This one has a lot of brown in its plumage, and that's an indication that is older plumage that hasn't been molted yet. So he still has his molt to go through later. And they tend not to molt at the exact same time, all of them. They often molt at different periods. You might have the female who's fully molted, all new plumage, and then the male, has his old ragged plumage on from the previous year. He hasn't molted yet into his new feathers. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just, maybe you could just hold this, and just like, let's see, Nope, it's still got, he's built a nice nest already, mainly of bay grape leaves. Yeah, some pairs love bay grape leaves. They love to make their nests out of it. Others will only make their nests out of grass, and some make it out of a combination of the two, but this is definitely one of the bay grape leaf pairs, and they actually last a lot longer than grass. So, the nests tend to last longer. So it's probably quite a bit from last season's one, but it looks like he's already been doing a lot of nest building. Okay, let's get him back in. Nest entrance. Way down here. Yeah, it's interesting because to get into his nest entrance, he actually has to enter the bay grape forest here. Okay, there we go. Actually, yeah, I mean, they're ahead of schedule. There's, I think last year, one of the first ones they did, which was about the same date, about the 20th of October. I only got 4 nests with birds in them, and I was thinking, wow, that's good. But we've already had more than that. We've had 5 nests with birds in them, and we're not even a third of the way through the check yet. Next, I'm going to go to Cahow Cam 1, which does need a little bit of clearing out. And I'm pretty sure nobody's back yet. I actually looked at the Cahow Cam camera, and there was nobody in the nest. Nobody's returned yet. But they are usually a fairly early returning pair. They did produce a chick last year, so that might slow them up a bit. But I would say this pair is most likely to return by by Friday or the end of this week. So keep a watch on it. Yeah, there's a ton of rocks and pebbles at the land crabs. There has been a land crab that I've seen on camera several times, quite a large male crab. So he's been making a bit of a mess of the nest, digging stuff up. This is the pair that always, the male comes in, the female is a large bird, just about as big and strong as the male is. And whenever she returns, it looks at first like they're fighting, because she's just very aggressive to his advances at first. And usually they always sort it out in the end and alloprene, but she definitely gives him a run for his money. Doesn't make it easy for him one bit. I feel sorry for him sometimes because she beats up on him, and he doesn't respond aggressively because he's trying to court her and trying to convince her that, yes, I really am, I am your mate, so please don't kill me, But yeah, it's interesting. You really notice the different personalities of these birds after a while. And this pair is as different as chalk and cheese from the other pair in Cahow Cam 2, the other nest we have a web cam in. That pair, the male is very big. It's a very quiet pair. They just get on with it. They get on nesting. That bird lost his mate of 14 years just a couple of years ago. He has a new mate now, so it'll be interesting to see how they interact this year. They did produce their first egg this year in the last nesting season. So I'm hoping we'll see the first chick this year from that new pair. Well, half new pair. I mean, the male is the original one. The female is a new bird.
So this was initially put in 2014. You can see there, there's from the initial Cahow Cam. Mm-hmm. And the lights are still going. There used to be a GoPro in the middle of that as our initial streaming system, but that no longer is the case. We've upgraded far beyond that since then. But I'm still using the initial lighting array, which is looking a bit rough right now. So
it is looking a little rough.
So I think I'm going to have to replace that between November and January.
Yeah.
I'll put a new lighting system in. But
it's held up
10
well.
years.
It's held up well.
Considering it was just a prototype at the time.
That's right.
It's still going 10 years
later. And it's been through how many hurricanes in that? About 6 hurricanes in that period, It's incredible.
Crazy.
So.
All right.
Yeah, so hopefully we will see these guys back later this week. Okay, let's see. Yep, we have a pair together. We have another pair together in this nest. Great. So that's one bird. And the other bird. The other bird has escaped into the tunnel, so I'm probably not going to be able to get. But look at these huge rocks they're digging out in there. God. Looks like the crabs have been very busy in there this year. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get, because this one has a very long, convoluted entrance tunnel, so once they go into that, there's no way you can flush them out. So I'll take a look at what I got, At least we can confirm that there was a pair in there. Very heavy bird. Normally I'd say this is the male, but this is one of these birds with oversized females. Yeah, one of these pairs. Let's see, 398, so that's 378. Now if it's a female, it's E0215. If it's the male, it's E0376 or something like that, I believe. Let's see. It's the female, E0215, yeah. It's interesting. This female, I actually banded as a exercise and chick over in one of my last night watches over on Horn Rock back in, I don't know when it was, 2009 or 10, something like that. So E0215, I'll get the wing cord. So this is in fact a female. She's a big bird, but unfortunately this pair, in 14, almost 15 years now of nesting, has only produced one chick. So they're almost a complete dud as a breeding pair, which is a real shame. 277 millimeters, because, you know, she's a beautiful, big, strong bird. He's small for the male size, so I'm not sure where, it's impossible to tell where the problem lies. It's probably just they're genetically not compatible.
Well, that's part of what our population study might help solve.
Exactly. That's just a big bird for a female, though, isn't it? Yeah, one of the biggest females in the entire population. Her and then the female bird from the Cahow Cam 1 nest. They regularly gauge as the heaviest out of all females in the entire population on all the nesting islands. So I'm just gonna put her back. She's gonna run into her mate and probably kick him out of the way on her way back to the nest. But I remember, because the night I banded her out on Horn Rock right over there, there were actually two chicks that were exercising from nests that you can't normally reach, the nest chamber. They're in natural crevices in the rock. And they were both exercising within 3 feet of each other, and so I was able to grab them both and band them both within minutes of each other. But she's the only one that returned, and she returned back here. You know, the other one never survived those first few years out at sea. She just fledged, and then that was it. Unless she's nesting in one of the 15 or so natural nests on the original islands that I can't access and get the adults in hand regularly. So, but that's a possibility, but it's unlikely. Yeah. Now this is another. Yes, oh yeah, somebody's back there. There's even prints, webbed prints at the entrance. Yep. Okay, here we go. It's a single bird in here. Okay, it's a nice big bird. You know, it's more successful than the previous pair, but even so, they don't have good breeding success. They only tend to produce a chick about every 3 or 4 years. So I'd say, you know, in 14 years now of nesting together, they've produced only about 4 or 5 chicks. But the neat thing about them is that almost every chick that's fledged from this nest, even though not many of them have been produced by this pair, they've almost all returned. They've survived their first few years out at sea, and they've returned. 2 of them have returned back to Nonsuch, and they're nesting at different nests, one at the B colony, one at the A colony, and the other, there's at least 2, possibly 3 more. There's one nesting on Green Island. I believe there's 1 or 2 nesting on Horn Rock. So although they don't produce many chicks, when they do produce a chick, it's a real survivor, and they're always nice, big, robust birds. So that's why it's worth, even though they don't have a high breeding success rate, they have a high survival rate of what chicks they do produce. And so, you know, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You know, it's still, they're adding quite a bit to the population growth. So I'll just put a little bit of grass clippings in here. they're not very good nest builders, this one. So this is one of those pairs that really benefits from building, micromanaging them a bit and building the nest for them. Always worth it when they produce good surviving chicks. It's like everything else. People, a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, why do you handle them so much? You should not handle them. You should let nature take its course." Well, I don't buy into that in the slightest. It's garbage, because man has so screwed up the natural environment and the ecosystem that these animals are trying to survive in. It's not the conditions that they evolved to survive in over hundreds of thousands of years. We have changed the paradigm for them on that. And so we, I think, have a ethical obligation to help them out, especially species like this that are critically endangered, because we have changed the conditions under which they're expected to survive in. And so if we can help it, rather than making it more difficult for them to survive, we can actually make it a little bit more easier for them to survive, then we redress the imbalance that we caused ourselves. So this thing of letting nature take its course, well, nature has already been hugely impacted by man. We are having a planet-wide detrimental impact on ecosystems everywhere, and there's 1 million species on the planet that are at danger of becoming extinct in the next few decades. So, I take, in fact, exception to comments like that. That's just an excuse for taking your hands off the wheel and just letting the car crash. You need to put your hands on the wheel and just help them out. And if you just give nature and these species a little bit of help, it can make the difference between them surviving for future generations to see, or extinction and only seeing a stuffed one in a museum. So I just feel very privileged to have hopefully helped them out in their road to recovery. As Bermuda's national bird, I think as Bermudians we really do owe we have a moral obligation to assist these species in their hour of need, really. So let's get this guy back in his nest.
Let me see him again real quick.
Yep, absolutely. Bring it out into the light. Yeah, it's a beautiful bird. Yeah. Little ruffled, but sorry, sweetie. Yeah, there we go. Darn. Yeah, see, this is where I've got to cut back these big great branches. Yep, somebody back here. It's okay, sweetie. Oops, I hear somebody up there. I think it's just the one, yeah. Okay, so this is our bird from 835 nest. Let me see. This is the female, actually, strangely enough. And the male is E0220. This one's E0257 or something like that. So, okay, so we'll get him in there. So she came back before he didn't. I'm surprised there's a lot of birds back in nests that produced chicks successfully this year. And they're usually, a week or two behind it. But it's like everybody's, returning early this year. Yeah, it's just quite late, I think this, other than the pairs, this is only about the second or third female we've had this year, so far today. Yeah, 300 exactly, minus the weight at the back, yeah. This pair and the next pair we're going to check, or the next nest, They're two of the most successful nests in the entire population. This pair has been successful about the last 6 years in a row, and the next one is the only one with a straight record. It's had 15 chicks in 15 years, 100% success rate. And this one isn't far, but this one has at least an 85% success rate. Yeah, 276. So, quite long wingspan. Okay, and let's check your band number. Oh, you just pooped yourself upside down in there. Darn it. E0, yeah, 579. Yeah, that is the female. Hey, even my pants.
Well, you've been christened for the season now.
Yep. Yep. So that's another bag I'll have to retire to. Let's get you back in there before. Yeah. So you can see overall a smaller head. You know, the males look like they've got big, massive heads and stuff. The females have, you know, just slightly smaller. Often the wingspan's the same or even longer, but their heads just look a little bit more slightly built. You know, not much, but enough so that after you've seen a few hundred of them, you can figure it out. Okay, perfect, good. Next is our Maximus bird. Gee, look at these. That's how much this has grown over summer. This whole branch basically grew from that point out to here. It's grown 4 feet, 5 feet in one summer. Yeah, luckily I did bring a pruning saw, so I'm gonna have to prune that back because it's overgrown the whole thing. Okay, not yet returned. I don't blame them. This pair has not had a break in their entire breeding lifespan. Now this might be back. What? Yeah, somebody was yelling up here. I think it's this one. This one is a loud bird anyway. Yep, so it's the pair together. Great. Okay. It's okay. Okay. I might need your help with this to hold one of these birds. Yeah, if you could just hold this one, JP. Thanks. Oh, they built themselves a nice nest already of big grape leaves. Now this pair has been nesting 3 years and has never produced a chick yet, so I'm hoping this is going to be their big year. Oh dear. She's in one of the holy bags. Okay. Oh jeez, and it's pooped. Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you what. You're not really helping matters one little bit. And no, you are not gonna get a chance to bite me. There. I just don't like them to rummage around in a dirty bag because then they get their plumage all fouled up. All right, so bird number 1. Yeah, this is the male. It's heavy. 398. So that's 378. 378. All right. So I'll switch places because I always like to put the female in first, especially since he's a bit aggressive at the moment. Just so he doesn't attack her, you know, when she comes in. If she's there already, then he's much less likely to do that. Okay, yeah, she's definitely lighter. let's see, 358. So that's 338. And last but not least, band number is, ooh, she's got a big hole in her webbing. Look at that. That could be from a fight, or that could mean she's a bird that came from Green Island, where a lot of them have those sort of holes from the sharp rocks out there. I'll have to check her, you know, where she came from. C0885. C0885, and I will make note of that hole. It'll be a good thing to identify her with. It doesn't seem to cause any problems with them. I mean, we had a female bird that raised chicks successfully, missing like half of one foot completely. So, okay, so that's her there. And then we'll release her mate. Yeah.
He's not going to bite you?
He's pretty hyped, so I can't guarantee it. Now let's see. It's very heavy though. It's very in good condition. Yeah. It's okay, sweetie. He's a gorgeous bird. Yeah. Okay. All right, you can go back. There we go. That is it. Well, we've just finished checking all 30 odd nests at the A nesting colony here on Nonsuch Island, and it's been very surprising. Last year this time, I believe there were 5 birds back in 4 nests, including 1 pair. I think we're 1 day later than the check last year, and we have 11 birds back. No, we have 12 birds back in 9 nests. So it's much more, and this seems to be a trend, you know, that I've been recording over the last, particularly the last about 6 or 7 years now, where more and more birds seem to be coming back earlier and earlier every year. And this sort of mirrors what's happening with the longtails or tropic birds as well here in Bermuda. And in fact, part of a worldwide trend where species are adjusting their breeding cycles because the climate is changing, you know, changing rapidly at this point. So it's really interesting to see what this is going to do. In a way, it's not very good because it is meaning that they're returning while the hurricane season is still underway. We still have about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks left in the hurricane season. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. We could still get one. The remnants of Hurricane Oscar are supposed to pass Bermuda, luckily, as just a gale force, depression later this week. But if we were to have a strong hurricane, say in very late October or early November, it would be a disaster, particularly on the outer small islands, nesting islands, the original ones, because those islands generally go completely underwater in a big hurricane. Here on Nonsuch, these birds will be safe, thank goodness. That's what I have really focused my management of the species on over the last 20 years, is getting them onto a higher, safer nesting area where they're safe from sea level rise and hurricanes for centuries at least to come. But but it's plainly a reaction to a change in climate. So I think time will tell whether it's a smart move on their part or it's a not so smart move. I think here in Nonsuch, like I was saying, it's safe and they'll move uphill and no problem. But on the original nesting islands, I would not be surprised, with things are as they are, to see at least 2 of those islands become completely unusable to the Cahows to nest in over the next perhaps 30 years or such, perhaps even sooner than that. One of them is almost not usable by them now. It's only through a lot of management we're keeping them going, and it's declining every year now. We can't even keep them as they are. Anyway, so it's been a eventful first check out at Nonsuch. Hopefully it bodes well for the rest of the breeding season. I'm really optimistic we may see a record number of both pairs and fledged chicks this year. Hopefully from both Nonsuch and from the whole population. We'll see. You can never tell though. It's way too early to count your chickens yet, so to speak. So we'll be involving all of you in the work ongoing here at Nonsuch Island over this this coming nesting season. So to everybody out there, good day, and have a great one from JP and Jeremy out on Nonsuch Island, Bermuda. And have a great afternoon.